The night I lost my job, I thought I was hitting rock bottom. I was wrong. Rock bottom came 3 hours later when my own father threw my suitcase onto the front lawn and locked the door behind me. And the craziest part? Neither of my parents had any idea that the beach house they bragged about to everyone actually belonged to me. My name is Ryan Mitchell. I was 31 years old, and until that night, I believed family was the one thing you could always count on. I learned how wrong I was in a single evening. For most of my life, I was the responsible child. My younger brother, Tyler, was the charming one. The favorite. Everyone knew it. Tyler could wreck his car and somehow become the victim. I could work 60-hour weeks and barely get a congratulations. My parents weren't cruel. At least not openly. They simply had different standards for each of us. When Tyler failed, he needed support. When I failed, I needed a lesson. For nearly 7 years, I worked for a large technology company. The pay was good. The future seemed secure. Then everything changed. A corporate merger eliminated hundreds of positions overnight. Mine included. I still remember sitting in that conference room holding a cardboard box with my belongings. I felt numb. Embarrassed. Terrified. I drove home trying to figure out my next move. I had savings. But not enough to comfortably cover months without income. A year earlier, I had moved back into my parents' home temporarily after ending a long-term relationship. The arrangement was supposed to last 6 months. Then life happened. Now I was unemployed too. That evening, I sat at the kitchen table. My mother was making coffee. My father was reading the newspaper. Tyler was scrolling through his phone. I took a deep breath. I lost my job today. The room became quiet. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then my mother sighed. Not sadly. Annoyed. My stomach tightened. What happened? She asked. I explained everything. The layoffs. The merger. The department closure. When I finished, my father folded his newspaper. And said something I'll never forget. So what exactly is your plan? I blinked. I'm still figuring that out. His expression hardened. At 31 years old, that's not a comforting answer. The humiliation hit instantly. I literally found out today. You should have prepared. Prepared? For a company restructuring I never saw coming? I looked toward my mother. She avoided eye contact. Then Tyler laughed. Actually laughed. Guess the golden career wasn't so golden. I stared at him. Seriously? He shrugged. What? It's true. I expected my parents to stop him. They didn't. The conversation ended there. Or so I thought. 3 hours later, my father knocked on my bedroom door. His face was cold. Almost emotionless. Pack your things. I laughed nervously. What? You heard me. For a second I genuinely thought he was joking. Then I saw my mother's face behind him. No smile. No sympathy. Nothing. My chest tightened. You're kicking me out? My father crossed his arms. You need motivation. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I lost my job today. And maybe that's exactly why this needs to happen. I felt like someone punched me in the stomach. My own parents were throwing me out during the worst day of my life. I packed in silence. 2 suitcases. 1 backpack. That's all. When I carried them downstairs, nobody helped. Nobody hugged me. Nobody said sorry. Then my father opened the front door. Good luck. The door slammed behind me. I stood there in the dark staring at the house I'd grown up in. And for the first time in my life, I felt completely unwanted. That night I slept in my car. I didn't tell anyone. Not even my friends. The shame was too much. The next morning, I called the only person I trusted. My grandfather's old attorney, Mr. Lawson. He had known me since childhood. When he heard what happened, he was furious. "Come see me." I drove straight to his office. And that's where twist number one happened. Mr. Lawson opened a file I hadn't seen in years. Inside were documents related to my grandfather's estate. Most people assumed Grandpa left very little behind. That wasn't true. Before he died, he sold several investments and purchased a small beach property through a family holding company. A beautiful beach house overlooking the ocean. The house had remained in the company ever since. And according to the legal paperwork, I was the majority owner. Not because of inheritance. Not because of luck. Because years earlier Grandpa specifically transferred voting control to me when I helped him manage his affairs during his illness. At the time, I barely understood what that meant. Now I did. I sat there stunned. "Wait." Mr. Lawson nodded. "Your parents never knew." I couldn't speak. Because suddenly a lot of things made sense. You see, my parents treated that beach house like it belonged to the entire family. Every summer they hosted parties there. Family reunions. Business gatherings. Weekend vacations. They loved showing it off. But legally? It wasn't theirs. Not even close. Still, I didn't want revenge. Not yet. I simply needed stability. Over the next few months, I rebuilt my life. I found freelance work. Then consulting projects. Then a new full-time position. Slowly things improved. Meanwhile, my parents never called. Not once. Not a single apology. Not a single check-in. It was like I had disappeared. Then came twist number two. About 8 months later, I received an invitation. A formal invitation. From my mother. For a huge anniversary celebration. Guess where it was being held? The beach house. I almost laughed. Apparently they planned to invite over 100 guests. Local business owners. Relatives. Friends. Even community leaders. The event would cost tens of thousands of dollars. And nobody had bothered asking the owner. Me. I called my mother. "Did you forget something?" Her voice immediately turned defensive. "What?" "The beach house." "What about it?" "Did you get permission?" Silence. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. "Permission from who?" That answer told me everything. They genuinely believed the property belonged to them. I hung up. And for the first time, I considered doing something I had avoided for months. Protecting what was legally mine. I instructed the management company to suspend all event access pending ownership verification. Perfectly legal. Perfectly documented. 3 days before the celebration, every reservation was canceled. The fallout was immediate. My phone exploded. Calls. Texts. Voicemails. Angry relatives. Confused vendors. Panicked planners. Then my father called. Furious. "What have you done?" I stayed calm. "What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean." "No." "Explain it." His breathing grew heavier. "The beach house." "What about it?" "It's our property." I finally said the words. "No, Dad." Silence. "It isn't." The pause lasted several seconds. Then I heard my mother in the background. "What did he say?" My father sounded shaken. "What are you talking about?" I explained everything. The ownership documents. The holding company. The voting control. The legal records. When I finished, nobody spoke. For perhaps the first time in their lives, they realized they weren't in control. But the biggest shock came during the legal review that followed. Because the attorneys discovered something neither side expected. Years earlier, my grandfather had left a private letter. A sealed letter. It was addressed specifically to me. Inside, he wrote, "Ownership isn't about property. It's about responsibility. The person who protects the family earns the right to lead it." I sat there reading those words with tears in my eyes. Because suddenly I understood why Grandpa chose me. Not because I was smarter. Not because I was his favorite. Because he trusted me. And that trust mattered more than any building. The climax came 2 weeks later. My parents asked to meet. We sat in the same kitchen where they had thrown me out. The same table. The same chairs. But everything felt different. My father looked older. My mother looked exhausted. For a long time nobody spoke. Then my mother started crying. We were wrong. Those 4 words hit harder than I expected. Not because they fixed anything. Because I'd waited my entire life to hear them. My father swallowed hard. We thought tough love would help. I shook my head. No. They both looked down. That wasn't tough love. The room became silent. That was abandonment. Neither of them argued. Because they knew I was right. Today, our relationship exists. But it's different. Healthier. Boundaries replaced assumptions. Respect replaced entitlement. The beach house still belongs to me. Not because I wanted power. But because someone had to protect what my grandfather built. And every time I stand on that deck watching the waves crash against the shore, I think about that night. The night I lost my job. The night my parents threw me out. The night I thought I'd lost everything. What I didn't know then was that losing their support would force me to discover my own strength. And the people who believed I was worthless without a paycheck eventually learned a painful lesson. A person's value isn't measured by their worst day. It's measured by what they do after it. My parents threw me out the night I lost my job. They thought they were teaching me independence. Instead, they accidentally revealed the truth. The son they considered their biggest disappointment was the very person holding the keys to the future they depended on. And they never knew who owned the beach house, until it was too late.